The Aldabra giant tortoise. There's a tortoise alive right now named Jonathan, who was born around 1850, give or take a few years. He was already fully grown when the American Civil War started, was alive during both World Wars, and is still eating grass on the island of St. Helena today. There are photographs of him from the 1880s. He's in them. He's still here. Jonathan is the oldest known living land animal on Earth, at roughly 170 plus years old, and by tortoise standards, he might not even be exceptional. Giant tortoises in the wild can hit 200 years without much fuss. The reason comes down to metabolism. These animals run on the slowest possible biological clock. Low body temperature, minimal energy expenditure, barely moving unless food is in front of them. And here's the part people miss. Tortoises don't really show the usual signs of aging. No graying fur, no gradual organ decline the way mammals experience it. They just keep going. A tortoise the same age as your great-great-great-grandfather is, biologically speaking, still doing fine. That's not just a long life. That's a fundamentally different relationship with time. The immortal jellyfish. If you had to pick one animal that makes biologists genuinely uncomfortable, this is it. The immortal jellyfish, Turritopsis dohrnii, is the only known animal capable of reverting to its juvenile state after reaching full maturity. Not metaphorically, literally. When it gets old, injured, or starving, it can hit rewind and restart its life cycle from scratch. It shrinks back into a tiny blob, settles on the ocean floor, and grows back into a young polyp. This can, in theory, happen indefinitely. It's not immortal in the sense that nothing can kill it. Diseases can, predators can, but the aging process itself just doesn't apply. Scientists call this transdifferentiation, where mature cells convert into different cell types during the regression, something that basically doesn't happen in nature at any comparable scale. The jellyfish is spreading globally, probably through ballast water of cargo ships, which is a detail nobody talks about enough. It's tiny, smaller than your fingernail, transparent, delicate looking. Nothing about its appearance suggests it solved the thing humanity has been trying to solve for all of recorded history. And yet, the Bowhead Whale. In the 1980s, researchers found a stone harpoon tip lodged in the blubber of a living bowhead whale. Not a replica. An actual stone harpoon from indigenous hunters in the early 1800s. That whale had been swimming around with a 200-year-old weapon stuck in it, completely unbothered. Bowhead whales can live well past 200 years, making them the longest-lived mammals on Earth. Most people assume large whales die relatively young, partly because mammals generally don't live that long. That assumption is very wrong. Bowheads live in Arctic waters, and scientists think the cold slows their metabolism, similar to why refrigerating food preserves it. But it's more than that. Their genome contains mutations in genes linked to DNA repair and cancer resistance that we don't see in shorter-lived species. They essentially evolved a better biological maintenance system. A bowhead whale alive today might have been born during the American Revolution. It might have heard the first steamships. Imagine your grandfather's grandfather had a grandfather. That ancestor might have been alive at the same time as a bowhead you could encounter today. The Rougheye Rockfish. There's a fish sitting in the Pacific Ocean right now that was alive before the United States existed, and it'll probably outlast your memory of reading this. The Rougheye Rockfish lives in cold, deep waters off North America and Asia, and can survive for well over 200 years. It looks like a fairly ordinary fish, reddish, spiny, vaguely grumpy-faced, the kind of thing you'd expect on a seafood menu. And it does end up on seafood menus, because fishermen have no way of knowing whether they're catching a 5-year-old fish or a 200-year-old one just by looking. The only way to determine rockfish age is to section out the ear bones and count the rings like a tree. Most fishing boats don't do this. Their telomeres, the protective chromosome caps that shorten as most animals age, don't erode at the standard rate. Gerontologists are actively studying what's happening at the cellular level. The problem is that because they live so long and mature slowly, they're easy to accidentally overfish. You can wipe out an entire age class of 200-year-old individuals in a single season. We keep doing this anyway. Ming the Clam. In 2006, researchers from Bangor University pulled up an ocean quahog clam from the seabed near Iceland and counted the growth rings on its shell. The count came back at 507 years old. Ming, as it became known, was alive in 1499. The Ottoman Empire was at its height. Leonardo da Vinci was in his 40s, and this clam was sitting on the seafloor doing clam things. Then scientists killed it. They froze it to preserve the sample before finishing the ring count, which is a kind of cosmic irony that's hard to fully sit with. Most people assume the oldest living organisms are ancient trees. A clam on the North Atlantic seafloor was older than most of them. The ocean quahog is a species, not a fluke. These clams routinely hit 400 years. Ming was exceptional, but not freakish. What makes this strange is the animal involved. No brain, no complex nervous system, no behavior beyond opening and closing to filter food. And yet, something in its cellular biology let it keep doing that, unchanged for 5 centuries. The Red Sea Urchin. Sea urchins don't look like something that could outlive your entire family tree, but here we are. The red sea urchin, found along the Pacific coast of North America, can live for over 200 years, and scientists can't find clear evidence they age in any meaningful biological sense. Old red sea urchins still reproduce, still grow. Their body functions don't measurably decline. The technical term is negligible senescence, aging so slow it might as well not be happening. For comparison, a human's physical peak is somewhere in their mid-20s. After that, it's a gradual decline across almost every system. A red sea urchin at 150 is physiologically similar to one that's 20. Their telomerase activity is unusually high, meaning they're much better at repairing chromosome ends than most animals. Their antioxidant systems are more effective too, meaning less cellular damage accumulates over time. They're not doing anything dramatic, just sitting on rocks, eating kelp, completely ignoring the concept of decay. By the way, if you're finding these lifespans as wild as I am, I post content like this regularly, and I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed. It genuinely helps. Thanks. The freshwater pearl mussel. The freshwater pearl mussel can live up to 250 years, making it one of the longest-lived invertebrates on Earth. It's also critically endangered, and the reason it's disappearing has everything to do with another animal it can't survive without. For the first year of its life, the mussel can only develop as a parasite on the gills of a salmon or trout. It doesn't harm the fish, but it absolutely needs one. No salmon, no mussels. As wild salmon populations have collapsed across Europe and North America, freshwater pearl mussel populations have crashed alongside them. We're losing an animal that can survive 2.5 centuries, mostly because we can't manage fish populations responsibly. A mussel alive today in a Scottish river could have been a juvenile during the Napoleonic Wars. Its shell is a 250-year record of water conditions in that river. Scientists use old mussel shells to reconstruct historical river chemistry the way climatologists use ice cores. These animals aren't just survivors, they're records, and we're losing them. The Hydra. The Hydra, a tiny freshwater polyp about as long as your fingernail, appears to have skipped the dying part entirely. Under controlled lab conditions, hydras show no measurable increase in mortality rate with age. None. Their cells constantly replace themselves through interstitial stem cells that never seem to run out or lose function. The animal essentially regenerates itself continuously, which makes the question of how old it is genuinely hard to answer. If you replaced every plank of a ship one by one over 300 years, is it still the same ship? Hydra researchers deal with a version of this daily. In the wild, hydras get eaten, dried out, or frozen. In a lab with no predators, they just keep going. The leading theory is that their stem cells are regulated by a gene called FOXO, which in humans is associated with longevity in centenarians. Hydras express it at unusually high levels. You've got a version of the same gene. Yours just isn't working as well. The animal looks almost absurdly simple. A tube with a mouth, a ring of tentacles, no brain, no heart. Evolution has been refining this design for about 700 million years, and if it's not broken, you apparently don't fix it. The Greenland Shark. People assume sharks live fast. Greenland sharks are the counter-argument in the most extreme possible way. A Greenland shark doesn't reach sexual maturity until it's between 150 and 175 years old. A human is considered old at 80. A Greenland shark at 80 hasn't hit puberty. Their maximum lifespan is estimated at close to 500 years, based on radiocarbon dating of proteins in their eye lenses that form before birth and never replace themselves, giving scientists a chemical timestamp like a very old receipt. There are Greenland sharks in the North Atlantic right now that were born before Shakespeare wrote Hamlet. They move at roughly 1 kilometer per hour, eating whatever they can catch, which somehow includes seals. They're thought to sneak up on sleeping prey in the dark, a strategy that only works if you're patient in a way that requires centuries. They're also nearly blind due to a parasitic copepod that attaches to their corneas. A 500-year-old, nearly blind, barely moving predator is still a functional apex predator. We keep coming back to the human lifespan on this list, and it keeps looking smaller. The American lobster. Lobsters age in a way that's almost the opposite of everything else in nature. Most animals lose telomerase activity as they get older, meaning chromosomes gradually degrade and cells can't divide properly. Lobsters produce telomerase continuously throughout their lives, in virtually every tissue. The result is that lobsters don't really show conventional signs of aging. Older lobsters are actually more fertile than younger ones. They keep growing. They keep molting. The only things that kill them are disease, predation, or the physical exhaustion of molting, which gets harder as they get bigger. Left alone, a lobster could theoretically live for a very long time. The honest answer is nobody knows the upper limit, because the largest, oldest lobsters were almost certainly eaten before scientists could study them. The biggest ever recorded weighed about 20 kilograms, roughly the size of a small dog, and was likely over 100 years old. The full ceiling on lobster lifespan is genuinely unknown, which is a strange thing to say about an animal people eat with drawn butter. The lobster you had for dinner was probably older than most of your houseplants. The olm. Deep in the limestone cave systems of the Balkans, there's a blind, pale, eel-like salamander that can live over 100 years, go a decade without eating, and move so little that researchers tracking individuals have observed the same animal travel less than 10 meters over an entire decade. The olm looks like something evolution started and forgot about. It's white because it lives in complete darkness and never developed pigment. It has feathery, blood-red external gills. Its eyes are vestigial, covered by skin, present but not functional. It detects electric fields and chemical signals in the water instead. Scientists tracking olms in a Slovenian cave system found most hadn't moved in years. Not days, years. They're not sick. They're just doing what olms do, which is as close to nothing as a vertebrate can get while technically still being alive. Barely any movement means barely any cellular stress. Barely any food means barely any metabolic byproduct accumulation. Their entire strategy is to do as little as possible for as long as possible. They were discovered by European cave explorers in the 17th century, who assumed they were baby dragons. That's almost more dignified than the truth. The deep-sea glass sponge. At this point, the human lifespan isn't even a rounding error. Deep-sea glass sponges are estimated to live for up to 15,000 years. Not 1,500, 15,000. The oldest ones alive right now were alive before the wheel was invented, before writing, before agriculture, before any civilization we'd recognize. The pyramids at Giza were built roughly 4,500 years ago, which means there are sponges on the ocean floor today that are 3 times older than the pyramids. They look like glass, accurate since their skeleton is made of silica, the same material as sand and glass. Some form massive spicule structures rising several meters from the sea floor, looking almost like sculpture. They don't move. They filter seawater for nutrients and grow about 1.5 centimeters per year, sometimes less. Their longevity comes from near total stillness and the cold stability of the deep ocean, where temperatures hover near freezing and almost nothing changes over centuries. The individual cells alive today aren't the same ones from 15,000 years ago. They replace themselves. But the colony, the organism as a continuous living entity, has been there, sitting on the seafloor, filtering water, before your language existed, before your country existed, before your species had a written word for time, and it's still there now. If that's the kind of thing that makes your brain short-circuit a little, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching.